This is Chris. Thank you for watching my video. Also, catch me on these social media platforms. And if you want to see some great art, hit my DeviantArt page up. And finally, support my Patreon. Thanks. Alright, guys, alright. It is me, Crimson60620. And what you're seeing is my daily log on bullshit of what is this called? Guild Wars, Gem Wars, whatever the fuck it is. It's a match, Gems of War. Yes, a match 3 games. Now I'm doing something a little bit different today, or normal. I don't know. I had a weekend talk with Jill yesterday, which was interesting to say the least. And let's just turn that back off here. And yeah. I'm sorry I'm late. I was actually trying to get on Scholar Fiction Show. I did get on. I actually told him about the interview I had with G-Man. Yay. And quite frankly, guys, chilled out from work. I actually, this is funny. I actually made like a meal or 2 meals this weekend that is going to keep me fed for at least the next 5 or 6 days. I smoked some ribs. Quite literally put some ribs in a smoker and cooked them. And I cooked some red beans and rice in a slow cooker with smoked turkey tails. And it is just fucking awesome. And so, yeah. Yes. And as always, if you want to see some of my merch, you can actually go to my merch store at streamlabs.com, Crimson60620, and you can actually donate if you want to help support the stream. That being said, guys, let's see. It looks as if my stream output is too low. Yeah, can't do anything about that now that it's changed, but it's in rice and yeah. Let's just close all of the shit that I'm not using right now. Maybe that'll help my computer chug up a little bit more. And so, I actually want to just start off by saying, guys, I know I'm still trying to get in this habit of actually streaming more and more, and it's interesting to say the least. It is interesting. It's interesting. So let's get to choosing the game we're gonna play today. Did I download it? Tell me I downloaded it. Come on. Not there. Although I may want to play a couple of these games on stream. Just me. What the fuck, man? Oh, don't tell me I didn't download it. Okay. So we're gonna kindly do this. Warframe. Wait, no. Warframe. It's been a while since I played it, and I thought I actually downloaded it. I think I downloaded it on my other PS4, which I don't know what to call. My friend actually has my other PS4, and so Gotta download it. Oh, I did download it already. It is on the system. It just needs to update. So while we're relating this update, we're gonna set up tonight's video that we're talking about. All right. So I remember a few years back. I remember watching this guy. He did a video, and he was talking about how the rich need to fucking watch out, and because you know the pitchforks is coming. I don't know how to even say it like that, but the pitchforks are coming because the oligarchs need to be careful of just some of the shit that they do, because in the end, people can only blame the people without power for so long. Then they coming after you rich fucks. But yeah. Now, when I was searching for this video because I wanted to talk about it, you know, kind of make sense politics and shit, I actually came across that his original video from TED was actually banned. And I was like, what? TED Talks wouldn't do that. TED Talks wouldn't do that. They wouldn't ban like videos or things of that nature, but they did, and it was a whole big story on TYT about it. I've found the video they actually did allow. So let's look at this, and then yeah, I scrubbed I actually watched the original video, and compared to this one, he did say some of the same exact shit, just a little bit more espoused on. And so, let's actually do this. But first, I'm gonna read the update. About to use my mouse to do the cursor. We're quickly approaching TennoCon 2019. So this will be the last update for the PS4 for now until after TennoCon, as we gear up for the big day, Saturday, July the 6th, which I'm going to actually be at Animate Midwest. Yay for me. We're included. Damn, that is the day of my panel. Wow. We've included everything from PC hotfix 25.1.0 to 1.3. And we're in the process of attempting to grab Wukong revised changes. He had a Wukong? Does he scratch his ass and throw poo? From PC update. Download once we sent it. Certification. And you know what? I actually have a lot of fucking platinums. Let's go to the store. I have 300. God damn. How much is this platinum? How much platinum is this? You can tell it's been a while since I've actually been on Warframe. This is a gaming channel, and also talks about commentary. Nah, not gonna happen. Whis. How much? Oh shit, that's too much. Let's look for discounts. Whis. I actually have enough to purchase him. And let's look at the categories. Loki Prime, Vote Prime. Damn it! I do not make the money from anything to actually make that money. So to actually buy that. So let's go back to the market. Categories. Bundles. Not cosmetic. Bundles. Let's go to weapon bundles. This isn't what I think it is. Oh, that's the Paris Bowl. I just cannot make up my mind. This is why I still have platinum. All right, so let's just jump into some matches. All right, and jump into the video.
You probably don't know me, but I am one of those 0.01 percenters that you hear about and read about, and I am by any reasonable definition a plutocrat. And tonight, what I would like to do is speak directly to other plutocrats, to my people, because it feels like it's time for us all to have a chat. Like most plutocrats, I too am a proud and unapologetic capitalist. I have founded, co-founded, or funded over 30 companies across a range of industries. I was the first non-family investor in Amazon.com. I co-founded a company called The Quantive that we sold to Microsoft for $6.4 billion. My friends and I, we own a bank. I tell you this, unbelievable, right? I tell you.
Okay, so like he's laying down his bona fides, you know what? I gotta get a game of people to play the Warframe. I'm sorry, guys. I just don't feel it. Let's change the game to Spite, because Spite is actually cool. So, he's just laying out the I'm rich, bitch. Nah, he's actually laying down the fact that he does have a lot of fucking money. He does lay down that, this is what I've done. I was the first non-family investor into Amazon. Fuck Jeff Bezos. And yeah. So let's listen to him.
I tell you this to show that my life is like most plutocrats. I have a broad perspective on capitalism and business, and I've been rewarded obscenely for that with a life that most of y'all can't even imagine. Multiple homes, a yacht, my own plane, etc., etc., etc. But let's be honest, I am not the smartest person you've ever met. I am certainly not the hardest working. I was a mediocre student. I'm not technical at all. I can't write a word of code. Truly, my success is the consequence of spectacular luck, of birth, of circumstance, and of timing. But I am actually pretty good at a couple of things. One, I have an unusually high tolerance for risk. And the other is, I have a good sense, a good intuition about what will happen in the future. And I think that intuition about the future is the essence of good entrepreneurship.
All right, so let's break down what he just said here. For one, he's actually being honest, quite honest, actually. A lot of people that are plutocrats or oligarchs, they're not exceptionally smart people. In fact, he's right. They just don't mind taking a risk. Now, I was having a conversation, ironically, with my 12-year daughter about how it started from a conversation I was having at my mother's house for my sister's birthday celebration, where I actually don't watch much professional sports anymore. It's just one of my things. I've lost the taste of it, especially since a lot of professional sports aren't geared towards teamwork, strategy, or actual skill versus natural talent. There are some people who are naturally talented. I say this all the time. LeBron James is a naturally talented individual. And he's built like he used to play ball in the 90s where the league has moved away from it. He just has conditioned when his leg isn't cramping up from dehydration to be able to go use strength and endurance. But that's just natural talent. When it comes down to it, a lot of professional sports, it isn't skill. And I know I'm being hyperbolic, but it's one of those things where it's just like, it's about playing for your next contract. And it's about your next big payday. So I got into a conversation with a few people stating that, hey, don't like it anymore because it's all about the superstar player versus having a lot of, just natural affinity to work together to become a better player. And then the conversation evolved to, hey, they're making money for, their skill or their natural talents. And so it came down to a lot of people, I just don't feel that a lot of people shouldn't be rich because it's nothing special. Yes, they have money and they may have some skills that not everybody has, or natural talent which everybody has, but it's nothing about their value as a human life is more valuable than anybody else's. They just have more money. Whoop de doo. A made up concept that we use to quote unquote put value in people. So let's continue.
So what do I see in our future today? You ask? I see pitchforks, as in
Yes.
angry mobs with pitchforks. Because people like us plutocrats, because while people like us plutocrats are living beyond the dreams of avarice, the other 99% of our fellow citizens are falling farther and farther behind. In 1980, the top 1% of Americans shared about 8% of national wealth, while the bottom 50% of Americans shared 18%. 30 years later, today, the top 1% shares over 20% of national wealth, while the bottom 50% of Americans share 12 or 13. If the trend continues, the top 1% will share over 30% of national wealth in another 30 years, while the bottom 50% of Americans will share just 6. You see, the problem isn't that we have some inequality. Some inequality is necessary for a high-functioning capitalist democracy. The problem is that inequality is at historic highs today, and it's getting worse every day.
All right. So, and this is what I would disagree. But again, this is something that, again, when you own the means of production, you're just gonna still have some inequality. And human beings are social creatures, yes, and they have in our DNA socialized to have some sort of hierarchy. And so I don't agree with the people that want to get rid of it altogether, but it should be more just. And I don't mean just putting in, and I'm rambling, but I don't mean just putting in the token oppressed class in order to, change this hierarchy. But what I mean by that is, we actually, it's too much inequality. That's the problem. And then people are starting to believe that it's just natural. This this unnatural state of just, hey, we need these people to be up top and taking the lion's share of what's going on, and it's just unnatural. Fuck me. But let's continue.
And if wealth, power, and income continue to concentrate at the very tippy top, our society will change from a capitalist democracy to a neo-feudalist rentier society like 18th century France. That was, France before the revolution and the mobs with the pitchforks. So I have a message for my fellow plutocrats and zillionaires, and for anyone who lives in a gated bubble world. Wake up. Wake up. It cannot last. Because if we do not do something to fix the glaring economic inequities in our society, the pitchforks will come for us.
All right, so yeah, so it's in your own self-interest to say, hey, we're fucking up. Hey, the last time the poor people actually did this shit, a lot of people in France lost their fucking heads. And I think that a lot of rich people are thinking, well, it's not going to be me. I have my protected bunker and shit like that where, like, in the end, like, if you still have a protector bunker once the mobs have died out, what are you going to do? Take your gold to the coast? And how are you going to get that from the marauders after society has collapsed? Remember, rich people can't live with the state, can't live without it, and don't want to pay for it. The state helps protect you, keep your money. And I'm sorry, in the end, you're going to need that state to help secure and make sure that your money is protected. So, yeah, let's have that conversation. But let's continue.
For no free and open society can long sustain this kind of rising economic inequality. It has never happened. There are no examples. You show me a highly unequal society and I will show you a police state or an uprising. The pitchforks will come for us if we do not address this. It's not a matter of if, it's when. And it will be terrible when they come for everyone, but particularly for people like us plutocrats.
So you can arguably say that we live in a police state now where most of the crimes that we see are based on property crimes or protection of the status quo to promote property crimes. For example, and this is just not some hyperbolic phrase, it is where you can actually see a lot of people are drug crimes. You can actually literally say that people are taking drugs because, they are trying to process the shitstorm of life. You can say that some crimes of passion, I'm not going to say that all of it is related to, there are some crimes of passion where someone is pissed off and they do something harmful to society or to themselves. And there are some, like, one of the funnest things when you look at, hey, what's affecting a lot of people, and you look at the incel problem. You see a lot of young men who feel that they can't get relationships, they can't get validations of relationships. So what do? They attributed all that validation to actually just sex. And that validation comes at a price where they put that illness to say, I need to have more sex, and when it's really they look up for validation because a lot of the lies that they were told that they were going to grow up and actually have great relationships and have 2.5 kids and shit like that. they've been lied to about this shit. That's the that's the joke about Fight Club. It wasn't that, you know, the narrator was actually super cool. It was like, no, you've been lied to, and the world isn't what you've been taught by TV or society to believe. And how do you cope with it? It's just a lot of people took their own lesson from it. And I think the incels are a prime example of people taking their own lessons from it. People are financially fucked. And as long as people are financially fucked, you're going to get these problems in the world. You're going to get these problems where people are going to say, well, I need validation because I don't have reward and validation from my fucking job. You're going to get these problems where people can't relate to other people because the one thing that they can't afford is a connection to the internet, and you can't go out or, you know, have fun like you used to, and now you just have meaningless connections online where going to the movie is a fucking $20 proposition even if you're going by yourself. So yeah, you have these issues. But let's continue.
I know I must sound like some liberal do-gooder. I'm not. I'm not making a moral argument that economic inequality is wrong. What I'm arguing is that rising economic inequality is stupid and ultimately self-defeating. Rising inequality doesn't just increase our risks from pitchforks, but it's also terrible for business too. So the model for us rich guys should be Henry Ford. When Ford famously introduced the $5 day, which was twice the prevailing wage at the time, he didn't just increase the productivity of his factories. He converted exploited auto workers who were poor into a thriving middle class who could now afford to buy the products that they made. Ford intuited what we now know is true, that an economy is best understood as an ecosystem and characterized by the same kinds of feedback loops you find in a natural ecosystem.
All right, so let's just give a little bit about Ford. Ford was quite literally a racist asshole. But he was in some ways, exactly what the world needed at the time. He says, well, one, he didn't come up with the concept of the assembly line. He just watched butchers do the disassembly line. Two, quite frankly, Ford was racist. And he was one of those, racists that says, even though I don't like you, I'm going to sell to you. And I'm going to give you a fair price because I like your fucking business. And he would disagree with people and he would have those conversations with people. But in the end, he would still be that asshole. But he would actually think that, hey, if I give them a little bit of something, they're going to be thankful for me. They're going to be thankful to me. And then I'm going to get what I want in return. See, Ford advocated for a five-day work week. He's the reason why we have Saturday off. And probably, I don't know, but I know Illinois does this, but probably the reason why you don't see car dealerships open on Sunday because of blue book laws that you actually see. But where it was, instead of going to work 6 days out of the week and only getting off on Sunday to go to church, you also had Ford saying that, hey, give them an extra day off, pay them more so they can buy my motherfucking cars. And that's what actually happened. He gave his workers more money and more time off so they can buy his motherfucking cars. And because he actually used the machines of his time to increase the productivity of his workers, he actually got more of a profit because in the end his workers weren't just, he didn't cut back on his workers' hours. He didn't cut back on his workers' hours and cut back on his pay. He actually increased their pay and decreased their hours. And you know what? People bought from him. And because more people bought from him, he was able to sell more cars. Because he was able to sell more cars, his employees were able to get, again, paid more. And they were, in turn, not only spend money on his cars, but they were able to spend money on other things. But these assholes we have now that call themselves capitalists don't understand you can't fucking screw over the workers. Because you know what happens? This bullshitty ass, well, we're going to give you free food at work, versus saying, hey, maybe you need to have more time off so you can enjoy your life, so you won't come back to work stressed and shit. Maybe we need to do that. And maybe you will actually feel more rested for the situation, for what you actually feel. But let's continue.
A feedback loop between customers and businesses. Raising wages increases demand, which increases hiring, which in turn increases wages and demand and profits. And that virtuous cycle of increasing prosperity is precisely what is missing from today's economic recovery. And this is why we need to put behind us the trickle-down policies that so dominate both political parties and embrace something I call middle-out economics. Middle-out economics rejects the neoclassical economic idea that economies are efficient, linear, mechanistic, that they tend towards equilibrium and fairness, and instead embraces the 21st century idea that economies are complex, adaptive, ecosystemic, that they tend away from equilibrium and toward inequality, that they're not efficient at all, but are effective if well managed. This 21st century perspective allows you to clearly see that capitalism does not work by effectively allocating existing resources.
All right, so not only is he going against the principles of capitalism, and I'm actually going to say this, he is also speaking towards, remember when I did that video not too long ago of Richard Wolff? He was talking about one part of capitalism, of socialism, where the government comes in and tells people how companies and people should actually relate. He's actually speaking towards this too, because in the end, that sort of capitalistic model, which is really socialistic, is also not very beneficial in what you see. But let's continue.
It works by effectively creating new solutions to human problems. The genius of capitalism is that it is an evolutionary solution-finding system. It rewards people for solving other people's problems. The difference between a poor society and a rich society, obviously, is the degree to which that society has generated solutions in the form of products for its citizens. The sum of the solutions that we have in our society really is our prosperity, and this explains why companies like Google and Amazon and Microsoft and Apple and the entrepreneurs who created those companies have contributed so much to our nation's prosperity. This 21st century perspective also makes clear that what we think of as economic growth is best understood as the rate at which we solve problems. But that rate is totally dependent upon how many problem solvers, diverse, able problem solvers we have, and thus how many of our fellow citizens actively participate, both as entrepreneurs who can offer solutions and as customers who consume them. But this maximizing participation thing doesn't happen by accident. It doesn't happen by itself. It requires effort and investment.
All right, so let's just break down what he actually said. Economic growth is problems versus solutions and how long it actually takes to get those solutions. Now, I would kind of disagree with that, but I see the point that he's actually saying. He's quite literally saying that you can't have economic growth if a society is in the shitters. You can't have economic growth if you have all of these problems going on, and quite frankly, people are being ignored. People are effectively not participating in the economy, not because they don't want to, because quite frankly, they don't have the means to participate in the economy. And that's not good. So, let's continue.
Which is why all highly prosperous capitalist democracies are characterized by massive investments in the middle class and the infrastructure that they depend on. We plutocrats need to get this trickle-down economics thing behind us. This idea that the better we do, the better everyone else will do. It's not true. How could it be? I earn 1,000 times the median wage, but I do not buy 1,000 times as much stuff, do I? I actually bought 2 pairs of these pants, what my partner Mike calls my manager pants. I could have bought 2,000 pairs, but what would I do with them?
All right. Do look like Sean Schimmel. I'm just saying. I'm just throwing it out there. He kind of does. But it's true. Like, when you actually come to think about it, giving so much people so much money, there's no way they can actually spend enough to generate the growth for the economy that you want people to actually have. And it makes no sense that you actually see that. Fuck! But it just makes no sense. But hold on, guys. I'll be right back.
How many haircuts?
I'll be right back. You want to give me some more liquids? All right, guys.
Can I get? How often can I go out to dinner? No matter how wealthy a few plutocrats get, we can never drive a great national economy. Only a thriving middle class can do that. There's nothing to be done, my plutocrat friends might say. Henry Ford was in a different time. Maybe we can't do some things. Maybe we can do some things. On June 19th, 2013, Bloomberg published an article I wrote called "The Capitalist Case for a $15 Minimum Wage." The good people at...
All right, so here's the thing. I'm going to say this. $15 is a minimum wage. It's just... It's not. It's not. Let's just be honest. It's not. It's not. It's not. It should be a minimum wage in most areas of the country. Some areas, yes, it should be 15. But places like Illinois, around the Chicagoland area, 15 is still starvation wages. So let's just take that off the back. But let's continue. I really want to finish playing Smite. I actually really want to build up my place in Conan. I think that's what was kind of bugging me. But let's continue.
Forbes magazine, among my biggest admirers, called it Nick Hanauer's near insane proposal. And yet, just 350 days after that article was published, Seattle's Mayor Ed Murray signed into law an ordinance raising the minimum wage in Seattle to $15 an hour, more than double what the prevailing federal $7.25 rate is.
And yet and still, the world didn't crash around Seattle. Yes, you had some people actually not working multiple jobs to basically live and enjoy time off. Lazy people, they don't work 3 jobs. It's almost as if, hear me out now. People don't find some kind of hook or crook to fucking make it and get by. Say like, damn, I feel kind of like intensely stared at by Conan. But it's almost as if, you know, somebody comes home after working for 10 hours a day, then comes home and actually starts doing a fucking live stream on video games. I wonder, like, people wouldn't do that shit by hook or by crook shit. But let's continue.
How did this happen? Reasonable people might ask. It happened because a group of us reminded the middle class that they are the source of growth and prosperity in capitalist economies. We reminded them that when workers have more money, businesses have more customers and need more employees. We reminded them that when businesses pay workers a living wage, taxpayers are relieved of the burden of funding the poverty programs like food stamps and medical assistance and rent assistance that those workers need. We reminded them that low-wage workers make terrible taxpayers, and that when you raise the minimum wage for all businesses benefit, yet all can compete. Now, the orthodox reaction, of course, is raising the minimum wage costs jobs, right? Your politicians always echoing that trickle-down idea by saying things like, well, if you raise the price of employment, guess what happens? You get less of it.
All right, so this is bullshit. As a matter of fact, as we saw with Trump's tax cuts, as soon as those motherfucking companies got those tax cuts, you know what they did? They started laying motherfuckers off, even before they got the tax cuts. Or right after they got the tax cuts to say, fuck you, pay me. And start giving out bonuses and dividends to their fucking stock, their stock owner, their shareholders, and start buying back stock in order to put more money in their pocket. So fuck you and your tax cuts, Trump. Fuck you.
Are you sure? Because there's some contravening evidence. Since 1980, the wages of CEOs in our country have gone from about 30 times the median wage to 500 times. That's raising the price of employment. And yet, to my knowledge, I have never seen a company outsource its CEO's job, automate their job, export the job to China. In fact, we appear to be employing more CEOs and senior managers than ever before. So
that's interesting because a lot of companies have done this. A lot of companies have actually done the work of, you know, paying their CEOs more. And it is through, let's be honest, bonus pay or stock purchases. It is through that. And yes, if a company does good, a CEO can actually make a lot of money in the short term based on based on the increase of stock value and stock prices. But that's not let's be honest. That's only looking quarter by quarter. A lot of CEOs don't care about the long-term health of the business. A lot of presidents of companies don't care about long-term health of the business because they're thinking about themselves. But let's continue.
for technology workers, and financial services workers who earn multiples of the median wage, and yet we employ more and more of them. So clearly, you can raise the price of employment and get more of it. I know that most people think that the $15 minimum wage is this insane, risky economic experiment. We disagree. We believe that the $15 minimum wage in Seattle is actually the continuation of a logical economic policy that is allowing our city to kick your city's ass. Because you see, Washington State already has the highest minimum wage of any state in the nation. We pay all workers $9.32, which is almost 30% more than the federal minimum of $7.25, but crucially, 427% more than the federal tipped minimum of $2.13. If trickle-down thinkers were right,
wow, Washington State. It makes me want to live there, but I just don't like the weather pattern, so I'm not. And because like, if that Sanitarius fault actually opens up and start opening up like a zipper, then it's gonna be some fucking problems. But let's continue.
then Washington State should have massive unemployment. Seattle should be sliding into the ocean. And yet, Seattle is the fastest growing big city in the country. Washington State is generating small business jobs at a higher rate than any other major state in the nation. The restaurant business in Seattle, booming. Why? Because the fundamental law of capitalism is when workers have more money, businesses have more customers and need more workers. When restaurants pay restaurant workers enough so that even they can afford to eat in restaurants, that's not bad for the restaurant business. That's good for it.
All right, so the thing about workers and restaurant workers and tips, that wasn't meant to replace their wages, but it has been codified to replace their wages. And that shit is just no, like no, for real, dog, no. Like go back, wake up and try it again. Wake up and try it again because in the end, you actually see where. How are you a restaurant worker and you're not being paid enough wage to actually eat at restaurants without without bumming it out or being bummy about it? There are literally times where restaurant workers can't eat because they don't have enough money to actually freaking pay for the food at the restaurants that they work at. Let's continue.
Despite what some restaurateurs may tell you. Is it more complicated than I'm making out? Of course it is. There are a lot of dynamics at play. But can we please stop insisting that if low-wage workers earn a little bit more, unemployment will skyrocket and the economy will collapse? There is no evidence for it. The most insidious thing about trickle-down economics is not the claim that if the rich get richer, everyone is better off. It is the claim made by those who oppose any increase in the minimum wage that if the poor get richer, that will be bad for the economy. This is nonsense. So can we please dispense with this rhetoric that says that rich guys like me and my plutocrats friends made our country?
All right, so here's the thing about it, and I'm going to actually say this. A lot of people need the poor. And I don't mean as just exploitative, hey, we need the poor type bullshit. A lot of people need the poor because they need to have something to stand over. And god damn it, this whole human need to say, I'm better than you because reasons, it's sickening. It's sickening to actually look your nose down at somebody and say, because reasons. I'm better than you. It makes me want to vomit. It makes me want to say that, and you're just proving why you're not. And I don't know. I just don't know. I don't know where these people come off as saying that poor people are a blight on society. But yeah, yeah. Let's continue.
We plutocrats know, even if we don't like to admit it in public, that if we had been born somewhere else, not here in the United States, we might very well be just some dude standing barefoot by the side of a dirt road selling fruit. It's not that they don't have good entrepreneurs in other places, even very, very poor places. It's just that that's all that those entrepreneurs, customers can afford. So here's an idea for a new kind of economics, a new kind of politics that I call new capitalism. Let's acknowledge that capitalism beats the alternatives, but also that the more people we include, both as entrepreneurs and as customers, the better it works. Let's by all means shrink the size of government, but not by slashing the poverty programs, but by ensuring that workers are paid enough so that they actually don't need those programs. Let's invest enough in the middle class to make our economy fairer and more inclusive, and by fairer, more truly competitive. And by more truly competitive, more able to generate the solutions to human problems that are the true drivers of growth and prosperity. Capitalism is the greatest social technology ever invented for creating prosperity in human societies if it is well managed. But capitalism, because of the fundamental multiplicative dynamics of complex systems, tends towards, inexorably, inequality, concentration, and collapse. The work of democracies is to maximize the inclusion of the many in order to create prosperity.
Now, I thought he was going to go full Spock. The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. In other words, the more fucking people that are in need, is actually better to help the many versus the few. And I don't mean that in the sense of we should marginalize minority groups. No, on the contrary. I would suggest people really understand what a minority group is. And not just some group that doesn't have, that's just a small number. I'm talking about groups where they just don't have the fucking power. And that's the thing. We have so many people that are affected by this minority group that sits on top of us all and tells us to fight each other. Fuck that. Fuck it. Fuck it in particular. Fuck that in particular. Because, and this is what I say, this is why I say that there are few people that are, relatively speaking, that are racist. But there are a lot of people that are scared of losing their place in society because they see what people that they have, quote unquote, seen underneath them have been treated. And they do not want to be treated that way. It is bad that they participate in that hatred of ostracized groups, minority groups, but they don't want to be seen that way because they know they're closest to the bottom and nobody wants to be at the bottom. But let's continue.
Not to enable the few to accumulate money. Government does create prosperity and growth by creating the conditions that allow both entrepreneurs and their customers to thrive. Balancing the power of capitalists like me and workers isn't bad for capitalism, it's essential to it. Programs like a reasonable minimum wage, affordable health care, paid sick leave, and the progressive taxation necessary to pay for the important infrastructure necessary to the middle class, like education, R&D. These are indispensable tools shrewd capitalists should embrace to drive growth. Because
All right, so he said a lot of cogent points here. For one, when you think about it, you kind of need somebody to. You kind of need somebody to be able to run your machines. You just can't have stupid people run your machines. You can't just have people that are. You have to have some level, some investment of education, some investment of actual training in order to assist it, in order to assist you to be able to be the commanding capitalist that you want to be. And I'm sorry, this shit is kind of needed. It really is. And for people who don't think it should be needed, I challenge you. I challenge you to try to run a business with stupid people. Newsflash, the shit isn't fun. It is not fun at all. And quite frankly, yeah. Let's let this man finish.
no one benefits from it like us. Many economists would have you believe that their field is an objective science. I disagree. And I think that it is equally a tool that humans use to enforce and encode our social and moral preferences and prejudices about status and power. Which is why plutocrats like me have always needed to find persuasive stories to tell everyone else about why our relative positions are morally righteous and good for everyone. Like, we are indispensable, the job creators, and you are not. Like, tax cuts for us create growth, but investments in you will balloon our debt and bankrupt our great country. That we matter, that you don't. For thousands of years, these stories were called divine right. Today, we have trickle-down economics. How obviously, transparently self-serving all of this is. We plutocrats need to see that the United States of America made us, not the other way around. That a thriving middle class is the source of prosperity in capitalist economies, not a consequence of it. And we should never forget that even the best of us, in the worst of circumstances, are barefoot by the side of a dirt road selling fruit. Fellow plutocrats, I think it may be time for us to recommit to our country, to commit to a new kind of capitalism which is both more inclusive and more effective. A capitalism that will ensure that America's economy remains the most dynamic and prosperous in the world. Let's secure the future for ourselves, our children, and their children. Or alternatively, we could do nothing. Hide in our gated communities and private schools, enjoy our planes and yachts, they're fun, and wait for the pitchforks. Thank you.
All right, guys. So we're at the breaking point. I actually want to do something, pull off something. Give me a second. Sorry about this, guys. So yeah, you can, like, it's always reminds me of the way that plutocrats operate right now. It reminds me of the way, you know, when you're a teenager and you have your parents say, "Hey, clean up the room, clean up this before I get home," and effectively you have it where you wait until the last minute, and then you miss that deadline, and they're home, and all you hear is, "Hey, thought I asked you to do something," and it isn't done. This is this is what we have now. This is the shit that we have now. These plutocrats are just laughing and playing away and saying, "Ha ha ha, we're so rich." But they're oppressing the people that they're extracting value from. And if I agree one thing with what Marx is saying, what Marx said is that the obscene amount of profits that people are making now, it's fucking theft. It's the theft of your value as a worker. And the shit is not pretty. And it's gonna get to a point where those pitchforks are coming, and it is not gonna be pretty. I shudder to think that people actually believe that they can wait certain things out and outlast the problem. When in truth, those problems will come knocking at your door. Whether you prepare for it or not, that's up to you. Let's see. Exit out. Now, we're going to do one more video. That was pretty long. I'll do that tomorrow. I want to do one on parasocial relationships and consumer identity. Oh God. Should I just end the stream here? Yeah, I think I will actually end the stream here, guys. I want to thank everybody who's watched. I want to thank everybody who's actually enjoyed the video. Please follow or subscribe, depending on what platform it is. And I want to thank everybody who's watched. Thank you guys for enjoying enjoying my stream, and you guys enjoy the rest of your night. Peace.